to have the opportunity to take care of the elderly or the sick is a privilege that very few understand the value of. You know, when you do seva, when you do service, voluntary service, you actually don't get a direct benefit because you're doing something for someone else, right? You're writing or reading to someone, even something as simple and basic as that. But the joy that it gives you cannot be quantified. The thing about seva is because you're not thinking of yourself, because you're doing for others, it has the same value as what we call sadhana in our tradition. Sadhana is your breathing, your meditation, and the knowledge. Seva or service to others has the same rewards. It builds your karma on a minute by minute basis. So your karma is not really your past destiny. You come with a certain baggage. But if you get the opportunity to serve, it wipes out a lot of accumulated karma. It builds up good karma and good things happen. People that do seva have a kind of a glow on their faces. I don't know if you've looked at, but sometimes even when I watch the videos of people taking care of shelters and homes and the nuns and the priests that actually go and do this work, they have, we call it in Sanskrit, tejas, like an inner light that shines through them. They may not be wealthy, they may have no money, but they have an inner sense of abundance, a feeling that all is good in this world and they're doing God's work, which they are. We are wired, our inner wiring is to help others. If that were not so, we would all be born alone on different planets. The fact that you are born into a family, that you have people around you, and it means something. There was a Harvard study done, and they found that people that have good relations, basic relations, either with the spouse or the children or with friends, are happier than those who have money. And that you don't need a study to tell you, right? You don't need any study to let you know about that. When you have a desire to do for someone, when the intention is not the self, when you're not seeking to improve yourself, when you want betterness, when you want peace, when you want joy for the world, when you want something for someone else, that intention always bears fruit. And the results will show in your life. It's like everyone asks me, so if I meditate, everything's going to be all right. No, everything is not going to be all right. Meditation accesses your source. Meditation gives you that awareness that when you find that you are unable to take the suffering or to see the suffering, especially in others, we're talking about that now, that you can catch it before it hits the downward spiral and you go and, sit in a bar and drink 4 shots to just get rid of the pain. I spoke to people that were working in Haiti after that earthquake. And they said that what they noticed, that there were many groups of people. And those that were not connected to churches or to voluntary organizations like Art of Living, like people with the Red Cross and other, so they hit the bars every night. Their way of dealing with this pain that they were seeing, because whatever you might say, whatever kind of person you are, you do get affected by other people's pain. It is extremely difficult to watch, strangers suffering, let alone your mother or your sister or your father. It has an effect on your psyche. It tends to drag you down. Now, how you deal with that downward spiral of your thing, like, what's life worth? What's the point of all this? Why is everybody suffering? What am I going to do with all this? What if it happens to me? The thoughts, one thought leads to another, one thought leads to another, and you find yourself feeling closed in. There are days, I know that all of you have had a time in your life when you've had to take care of a loved one. And that feeling has come like, oh my God, my head is going to burst, I want to scream. I can't take this anymore. And there are healthy ways of dealing with that, and there are unhealthy ways of dealing with that. For me, I meditate more. Twice, sometimes thrice. Sometimes I don't do the meditation. I do the Bhastrika breathing. Because you need to get it out. You need to release whatever is building up inside you. The minute you finish your meditation, you have during the day an awareness that when the thoughts are going to something that's negative, something that's pulling you down, something that's making you want to cry, bringing up the emotions, you catch yourself. You catch yourself and say, what do I have to do right now? What can I do right now? You cannot be the suffering of others. You see, we all have our own individual journey. And very early, one must recognize that you're just 2 drops of water in a running river. You run side by side for some time, and then each one takes its own path. Yes, you feel the pain when your daughter calls you up crying. Yes, you feel the pain when you see your children suffering, when someone's going through an illness. But if you have a body, there will be illness. And the one way of combating your own bodily illness is by keeping a healthy mind. I saw it so clearly. 6 weeks of intense stress. And when that feeling was released is when I fell sick. I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming because my mind was not in a good place. I did not want to leave my mother in the state that she was in. I was feeling a lot of helplessness. I knew I was going to fall sick. I saw it happening. I literally saw. I said, as I get onto that plane, it's going to happen, and it did. You know you control your illness by the state of your mind. If your mind is in harmony, you have better use, you're a better caregiver to someone else. Because people that are sick, there are 2 kinds, There are those that take their sickness, with a lot of inner wisdom. And there are those like my mother that complain incessantly. Now, when you have someone who's so intensely negative, your own positive charge has to be powerful to overcome that. Otherwise, she's not going to heal. She's feeding off of you. If you too let yourself get down, you're of no use to anyone. You're of no use to anyone. We don't know why we were born. We don't know how we are going to die. But in the interim, you've got to keep your peace and your sanity and your wits at all times. That happiness, inner happiness, has to be there. You have to find a way of recharging yourself, because caregiving is the most draining. It's the most draining. Especially if the spouse or the person, the mother, the child passes away. It can lead to a terrible downward spiral. You have to, at that point of time, if you don't have the tradition of meditation, then what do? They pump you with a bunch of drugs to keep your serotonin going and keep you up. But if you have tapped into this ancient tradition of knowledge and meditation is what? It's not enough to meditate, it's about applying that into your life. It's about using the knowledge, using the awareness to help you deal with difficult situations so that they are not so difficult. Sometimes distance is worse. You were asking me how do you deal with it. Before I went to India, I was much more nervous about what I was going to accomplish than actually being there. Even though I was dealing with everything on a day-to-day basis, and every day there was a new crisis. But then you're right, trapped in the present moment. You're just dealing with what has to be dealt with, And at the end of the day, beginning of the day, at the end of the day, I made sure I meditated. So yeah, caregiving is really hard. But you got to think of it this way. What is suffering? Pain is in the body. Suffering is in the mind. Suffering is your own mind going like a rocking chair, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Why did this happen to me? Why does this have to happen? Why does this person have to suffer? Why do we have to see this? It is your inner resistance to what's happening. Your best bet is to just deal with it. Whatever it is, good or bad. It's neither good or bad. There has to be some way of exiting this world. Right? Some young leaves fall, some old leaves fall, some withered leaves fall, some rotten leaves fall. But leaves fall. Right? So you develop that attitude early so that it doesn't pain you. It doesn't you don't become the suffering of others. You don't add to their burden. And there is no substitute for caring for others. It's a very rare privilege. When I was watching the nurses, and some do it clinically, and some do it with a lot of love and a lot of care. And there is a big difference between the two. Doing your duty, anyone can do. Doing just what has to be done, providing the food, signing the bills, so taking care. But massaging someone's leg or running a caressing hand on someone's cheek, or allowing them to sleep, telling them a story, sitting by their bed, holding their hand, feeding them. These are precious gifts, precious moments. So then there's no regret. There is no regret. You do what you can. But at all times, understand that the divine is working through everybody. It's the same divinity in all of us. And the hope is that if you do for others, you will have the same treatment. But if it's not that way, that's okay too. We can't control any of that. We can't control any of that. Let's not convert our pain into suffering. And so many people, they say that, oh, I took care of my mother, I took care of my mother-in-law, look at me in my old age, my children are not taking care of me. Right? Each one is doing their own thing, they're living their own life. Yeah. Then in addition to the pain, there is suffering. You deal with whatever is given to you. Your attitude is all that matters. Preferably you deal with it in a healthy way. Some won't. And that's not good for their own psyche. It's not good for them because using something negative to dull the pain is completely different from using something positive to make that pain dissipate. One is a downward surge, one is an upward. And you feel it, when you're in a hospital, if you've become sensitive, when you go into a hospital itself, or you go to a graveyard or a cemetery, you can feel the negative energy. Sometimes you can feel it when you walk into a room and start talking to someone. I find nowadays that I'm much more acutely aware of people's auras and the amount of energy that's coming from them. As you meditate more and more, you do become extremely sensitive to all of this. And you want to be that bright light, that positive energy that helps, that holds the hand, that does the things that has to be done. It's the best thing you can do. It is completely thankless. No one is going to be grateful to you. No one is going to fall at your feet and say, that was just a wonderful thing you did. Perhaps nobody will even remember what you did. That doesn't matter. It doesn't take away from it. Searching for name and searching for fame takes you away from your purpose. And if you have the opportunity, do some service. Even if you don't have care or elderly, if you do service, in some form, way or form, voluntary service, the rewards are very, very high. Feel very good. And the abundance then just flows. It just flows in your life. That is priceless.